All right. Welcome, folks. My name is Chef Saba, and we're at Yale Appliance in Framingham, Massachusetts. And today we're doing a cooking demonstration on convection in our gorgeous JennAir kitchen. I'm using the V2 behind me, and we're going to utilize both ovens just to kind of show the range of the different ingredients or different potential of convection. So we'll cook a couple of different things to show you the full range. First, let's start with convection. What is convection? Convection is dry or it's hot air that is blown into the cavity of your oven, which speeds up the cooking process and mitigates hot and cold spots. Typically in a standard thermal oven, your heat would just be coming from one source, and that would be the bottom, with a little bit of heat coming off the top. Most convection ovens do have the capability to use both top and bottom heat, plus the third heating element, which is the fan blowing hot air. And the fan usually has a heating element either wrapped around it, in front or behind, which will push the hot air throughout the cavity. When this happens, you do have to adjust your cooking temperature. So we suggest lowering the temperature by 25 degrees and your time by about 25%. It's called the 25-25 rule. Pretty easy to remember. So, the question then, comes to mind, like, why wouldn't you use convection? In what scenario would you not use convection? And to be honest, I pretty much use convection for everything. Why wouldn't you want to cook faster and have more evenness on your food? Especially with meats and vegetables, you get that beautiful caramelization all around. It's pretty much a no-brainer. With baked goods as well, if you're going to do multi-rack cooking, if you want to make like 3 trays of cookies or other confections, you can use straight convection mode, which will just give you the hot air blowing through the cavity of the oven. So no top or bottom heat. And what that means is you get even heat on all 3 racks. And that will give you the ability to multi-rack cook. Now, tell me that's not going to come in handy over the holidays when you have to fit a lot of stuff into your oven. You're going to try to bake a pie. You're going to try to make casseroles. You're going to try to make your roast veggies. So there's so much potential when you use convection. What I'm going to show you now, while our chicken is actually roasting in there, I started the roast chicken, by the way, at 425 degrees on convection roast, which means I have heat coming through the cavity as well as on top. So it's going to give me a nice, beautiful golden brown color. We are also using the probe. So I did crank the heat to 425 convection roast, which means it was actually 450 for the first 15 minutes. And then I dropped the temperature to convection roast at 325. So this is going to let me know once it reaches 165 degrees. So we'll check on that in a couple of minutes. But the first thing I want to show you is a flatbread, which you could do pizzas the same way. I set our bottom oven to convection bake at 475 degrees. So that actually means it's a 500 degree oven. And that's ideal for cooking any kind of flatbread, pizzas, anything you really want to crisp the bottom of, but you also want to melt the cheese on top. So this is just a standard store-bought flatbread. I'm going to put some mozzarella on top. I did a arugula walnut pesto on the bottom. And I'm going to top it with some shaved asparagus and mushrooms. But with flatbreads, to be honest, the ingredients can vary. You can make them to your liking. I've made buffalo chicken flatbreads. I've made, regular margarita pizza style with just cheese and tomato sauce. So you can really get creative with your flatbreads. This is just something that I really wanted to make today because I think this recipe is really elegant, and if you were to make it for your guests, I'm sure they would appreciate and love you for it. So I've put some sauteed mushrooms on top, and then this is the best part. This is something called Truffled Burrata. I'm just gonna pour some of that liquid out. So this is a Belgioso product. It's burrata, which is a delicious creamy mozzarella. It's actually mozzarella shell on the outside, and it's filled with cream or something called stracciatella on the inside, and it has flecks of truffle in it as well. So I'm just gonna dot that all across the top. And let me show you that. There we go. So I'll show you guys if you can see here, that's the creamy inside. You want to get as much of the moisture off of that as possible. So it just spreads really, really nicely on top. And then the outside, like I said, is a harder, traditional mozzarella shell. You can get this in regular form too. It doesn't have to be truffle, but I wanted to be fancy and get truffle today because it pairs really beautifully with mushrooms as well as asparagus. And I also want to let you know, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in to our Facebook page, and we'll answer them here live. Also, in our comments section, exactly. So if you're watching on our Facebook page, just leave your questions in the comments section and we'll be able to answer them. And I also forgot to mention that we are currently having our home show here at Yale. Which is going to be this weekend, the 13th to the 15th. During the home show, there's 0% financing available, as well as $1,200 on package credits. Is that right? Yes. Okay. All right, folks, I'm going to place this in the oven, and we'll see it cook in just a couple of minutes. So I did put an inverted sheet tray on the bottom. You could certainly use a pizza stone if you have one. I just kept the tray in there because everyone has sheet trays, and they cool down a lot faster as well. So I'm just going to put a timer there to remind myself to take this out. So we'll do this for about 8 minutes, and might pull it ahead of time too. So back to the home show. If you do have any questions, feel free to go to our website, yaleappliance.com, and you can make an appointment at one of our 3 showrooms, either Framingham, Dorchester, or Hanover, and schedule an appointment with one of our salespeople, and they'd be happy to help you with all of your kitchen needs. All right, so moving on. Now, let's get back to our oven over here. We have our chicken roasting. I'm gonna open the oven door for you so you can take a peek and see this beautiful bird roasting away. Let's pull it out for just one moment, and you can see all that gorgeous color. It's caramelizing beautifully, and you can see the probe there is attached as well, so that's gonna let us know right when that turns to 165 degrees. In the meantime, I'm actually going to turn our temp slightly up because I want to get our vegetables going as well. This is the great thing about cooking with convection. You can do multi-rack cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and place our potatoes in here as well. So just a little drizzle of olive oil, a little salt and pepper, and then some fresh herbs as well, and a couple of pats of butter, and I'll throw those on the bottom rack. And then I will put some broccoli in as well on the top rack. All right. Feel free, folks, if you have any questions, send them through. We are live here, so we can definitely answer them quickly. All right, and I'm just going to give this a quick stir, make sure everything is nice and coated. I did throw some fresh herbs on here as well, and these will go into our oven on the bottom rack. All right, there we go. And those are going in. Perfect. All right. Next up is our broccoli. So isn't this amazing? We have our chicken roasting on the middle rack. We have our potatoes that went in on the bottom. And now we can do our broccoli on the top, which means that we could have a complete meal done in a matter of minutes. All right, so just a little olive oil, a generous amount of salt, and pepper. And then I'll also just give this a quick toss. There we go. And I can definitely smell our flatbread toasting away over there. It smells amazing. All right, and let's get our broccoli into the oven as well. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, we'll give that a couple minutes as well. Feel free, folks, if you have any questions, send them through. I am happy to answer them. All right. So what else can your convection oven do? All convection ovens are not built the same, so you really have to look at what the manufacturer is offering in terms of different modes, different settings. But the professional ones will give you a lot of options in terms of how you can set your oven. So your convection roast, as I mentioned earlier, what we're using for our chicken is giving you hot air pushed through the cavity of the oven and giving you top heat plus a little bit of heat from the bottom. And this is really going to ensure that we get nice coloring all the way around. We are using convection bake for our bottom oven, and that's giving us a little bit of extra heat on the bottom to help crisp the pizza, but also that convection heat which will circulate across and over the top to melt the cheese and give you a nice brown crust as well. Other convection modes also consist of convection broil, which not all ovens have, but if you do have it, it's going to give you the direct heat coming from the broiler plus convection going through the cavity of the oven. So why would you ever use convection broil? Sometimes people do ask that question. And I would say if you were ever using or if you ever needed to broil like a larger piece of salmon, it might be larger, a little bit thicker, you can then use the broiler, which will give you a nice crust on the top, but also you can use the convection to raise the internal temperature. And the same thing with like if you were doing perhaps multiple pieces of steak. All right, excellent. So that was our indicator there. Couple of more minutes on the flatbread, but I will take our chicken out because it looks like we have reached 165. All right. This is going to be pretty hot, guys. So whenever you're removing a protein from the oven that has a temperature probe, be very careful. Use a towel or a set of tongs to unplug it. Remember, the whole cavity of the oven is going to be pretty hot. And there is our roasted chicken. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but my oven I just turned off, so let me turn that back on. Convection roast. There we go. Okay, perfect. And we'll let that do its thing. So yes, Brad, did you get a close-up here? Excellent. So you can see how we got nice crispy bits here. The skin definitely did get nice and crispy. Looks gorgeous. I did baste it with a little butter before it went in, so it does have a nice little crunch to it. It looks fantastic, and we're gonna just let it rest. I'm gonna use a second probe just to double check and make sure it's cooked all the way through, especially in the thicker parts like in the thigh. Looks good over here as well, and then in the breast as well. So, yep, the probe was pretty accurate, so we're looking good here. Perfect. Oh, looks like we might need a couple more minutes just on the inner part of the breast here. So this time I'll just place it in without the probe, but we know that it's probably just going to need a couple more minutes because most of the chicken, especially where the probe was, has cooked through. So I just want to make sure it cooks all the way through on the top as well. All right. So we talked about convection roast, we talked about convection bake, straight convection. Now this is a really handy mode. Imagine you're cooking your 3 trays of cookies and you don't want the bottom tray or the top tray to get more or less heat. You want all of the racks to get the same amount of heat. True convection or straight convection is going to be your best mode. So that's simply hot air blowing through the cavity of the oven. There's no other heat source at all. This is the best way to multi-rack cook. And that is our timer for our flatbread. Got a lot of things going on today. I hope everybody can keep up. All right, here we go. This is looking great. All right, excellent. Ooh, now it's sliding back. Perfect, okay. This is really not working for me. All right, almost. We're almost there, guys. This is the fun part about doing things live. You just never know what's going to happen. There we go. All right, so we have our gorgeous flatbread. I'm going to show you guys the bottom of that in just a second, but what I am going to do is remove our tray here because we're going to use our bottom oven to make our cookies as well. So let's get rid of that. And I'm going to turn the heat on the bottom oven now to convection, true convection at 325 because we're going to do 3 trays of cookies. Traditionally, cookies cook at or bake at 350. We're doing convection, so we've now set it to 325, and we're using true convection so we can have even heat on all 3 racks. All right, now back to our flatbread. We just popped this out of the oven. Can you hear that? I don't know if that is transferring, but that crispy, crunchy crust we achieved on convection bake. I'm just gonna do a little sprinkle of fresh herbs on here. All right, gorgeous. So this just goes to show how incredible that convection option is, especially for little things like flatbreads or, as you're going to see, our roast vegetables in just a couple of minutes. All right, let me transfer this. I'll slice this up and transfer it to a platter. Folks, let me know if you have any other questions about convection. All right, I think we're doing pretty good. What's our time check? 3:19. We are doing very good with time. All right. All right, so I also wanted to talk about ovens that have the option to use convection or not, because a lot of people ask, do I need to use convection every time? I already mentioned I mostly use convection when I cook. The only scenarios where I wouldn't use it would be for something like a souffle or a delicate angel food cake or a delicate pastry that would need to rise. In that scenario, you can just use straight bake mode, and that's just going to give you that radiant heat coming off the bottom of the oven. So those modes are still useful, especially if you're a big baker or you really like to make a variety of different pastries. Then I would recommend something like that. So I don't know if you guys can hear that crunch, 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 but it's giving me a lot of great crunch on the bottom as I slice into that. So that means that oven did its job. We had a beautiful, heat source coming from the bottom that did allow it to get nice and crispy on the bottom. All right, so here we go. And then I'm just gonna slice it this way. I can definitely smell the truffle in this, so I hope the staff here is excited for that. All right, here we go. All right, so we talked about regular bake mode. We talked about our straight convection mode, convection roast as we're using right now with our vegetables and our meat. And I always recommend, if you are cooking meat and vegetables, use convection roast mode. That's going to give you the best results. So meat and vegetables, convection roast, baked goods, convection bake, or true convection. And I think we have a question coming in.
Yeah, there was someone asking if there's, what's the difference between like a microwave with convection and a convection oven?
Excellent. So a microwave with convection, basically you can add in convection heat while you're using the microwave to help cook your food. So it's kind of in between. You still have the microwaves present, but you also have the ability to push hot air like you would in a convection oven through the cavity. So you could potentially roast a chicken in your convection microwave oven, which will cook pretty quick, and you won't get microwave results. You'll get some of that microwave will impact it, but it won't be 100% microwave cooked. So good question. We're going to cover convection microwaves at some point as well. All right, we're doing good. Excellent. All right. Brad, I don't know if you want to do a close-up of this, but that is our delicious flatbread. I'm just going to put this to the side since we're not going to do this right now. All right, so I am going to go ahead and put our cookies into the oven now as well. Oh, I forgot my garnish. Here, we'll put some pretty herbs on here. This is just my own little thing here. Okay, cool. Let's do the cookies. We are going to do 3 trays of chocolate chip cookies in our lower oven, which is set to convection bake, or I'm sorry, true convection 325, which means each rack should be the same temperature. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3. And those should take about 15 to 18 minutes. So I'm just going to set my timer for 15. All right, perfect. And I am also going to now take the chicken out because we gave it a couple minutes. And we just wanted to get that last little bit of the chicken breast cooked. So I think we did pretty good there. And I can definitely smell the tips of the broccoli are starting to brown, which means we are getting a really good caramelization and color on that. So I'm going to use my thermometer here again to check that one little section of the chicken that needed to come up to temp. And it's perfect. Perfect. Yeah, it's always good to double check on the poultry. You can also factor in carryover cooking, of course. That means that once that poultry, once that item, even cookies, once those leave the oven, you do have that heat, that residual heat that stays with that item, which will allow it to keep cooking. So if you factor that in, it will prevent it from overcooking. But also you want to ensure that you get it to temperature and make sure you've killed any bacteria, especially for things like chicken. You have to get it to 165 to kill off any salmonella or other bacteria. So just make sure you have a temperature probe handy to ensure that you can achieve that. But look at this gorgeous color, Brad. Do you want to do a close-up here and like see all the nice crispy spots on the skin there? Looks gorgeous. Beautiful. So, yeah, I can just kind of, I don't know if you can hear the crisp, the crispiness there.
Well,
Okay. Anyways, it is crispy and it looks delicious, and I'm sure it's going to taste delicious as well. I think our broccoli is just about done. So broccoli like that should really only take about 10 minutes or so, especially on convection roast. I'll just give it another couple minutes and then we'll take those right out. All right, so which convection or which oven modes haven't I covered yet? We talked about straight convection, which we are using down here for the cookies. We talked about straight bake mode, which is like a traditional thermal oven that would have, you know, just like your standard baked goods in that. If you were doing one tray of cookies, you could use your straight bake mode. But then again, if you were doing just one tray of cookies, why wouldn't you want them to cook faster? Just go ahead and use the convection. But straight bake you could use for your soufflés. If you needed them to rise, you don't want the hot air blowing on them. We talked about convection roast mode, which is what we're doing here with the potatoes and with the broccoli and with our chicken as well. Some ovens might even have just a straight roast mode. And again, that's just going to give you top heat and a little bit of bottom heat. No fan at all. Broil mode, as you know, that's just heat that is direct coming from the top. So the closer the item is to the broiler, the quicker it's going to cook, brown, or gain color. So if you have something delicate that you want to just get a little bit of color on, put it further away from the broiler. If you have something denser, like your steaks, you could put them a little bit closer, but just remember anything like that which has a lot of fat could potentially flare up the closer it gets to the heat source. So just things to keep in mind. Some ovens even have proof modes, so that just means a little bit of heat from the bottom, and that is just allowing the yeast activated dough to rise. You don't want any kind of convection blowing during proof mode because that could potentially dry your dough out. There's also a dehydration mode in some of our electric ovens that won't be available in gas, and that will allow you to get your temperature so low and allow you to also use that fan to pull as much moisture out of your vegetables or your fruits or even your meats. If you're making like beef jerky or you wanted to make homemade fruit roll-ups or kale chips, beet chips, anything that you could turn into a chip, you can do with dehydration mode, and that is using convection air but at an extremely low temperature. That is only available in electric ovens. Gas ovens cannot get that low. All right. We also, some of our ovens also have something called the stone mode. Stone mode is the same as convection bake, but it, depending on the brand and depending on the oven, it might actually give you a higher concentration of heat on the bottom. So stone mode is something you can keep an eye out for. And I'm going to go ahead and remove our broccoli now. There we go. All right, and that was, I think that was in for like a good 15 minutes or so. It's really hot. There we go. All right, Brad, if you want to take a close-up here, you guys can see the tips of the broccoli have gotten nice and brown and caramelized and great color. And then look at the bottom of the broccoli. I'm going to flip that guy right over. Look at that. The bottom also got the same color because we had convection going. So the bottom and the top got beautiful caramelization. I mean, this is the ultimate example of how efficient convection works. I didn't even have to flip the broccoli halfway through. It just got even color all the way around. One of my favorite things to roast is broccoli. I love how much depth of flavor you can achieve. And I just love those crunchy, crispy little bits as well. And you could actually make dehydrated broccoli as well. We were talking about dehydration earlier, and make like little healthy snacks for yourself. So I just think this is a phenomenal example of how that convection worked, where we got the tips of the broccoli got brown, and the bottoms that were sitting on that pan also achieved a really good bit of caramelization. So, I mean, that just proves my point right there. All right. So let's see the last thing we're waiting on is our potatoes and our cookies. About 7 minutes left on the cookies, and we'll take our potatoes out around the same time. So feel free, folks, if you have any questions, send them on through. I'm happy to answer them, and let me know if you'd like any of these recipes as well. I'm happy to share them, so just leave a comment on our Facebook page, and I'm happy to share the recipes as well. Any other questions coming through? Not yet. All right, no problemo. So why don't I go ahead and start plating our chicken dish here. I will break the chicken down. We can have some beautiful broccoli with it. All right, but yes, I would say convection is definitely my preferred way to cook. Especially around the holidays when you have to do multi-rack cooking, you know, you have lots of different dishes, lots of different items going. Now, mind you, some of those items may cook at different temperatures. However, if you can find a way to make them sort of stagger them in the oven, if you do have different temperatures, you can definitely make it work on convection. I always get the pie question about how do I cook my pie with everything else in the oven. My suggestion for that would be to use the convection bake mode and put the pie on the bottom rack. So your pie is now getting the concentration of heat from the oven. So that means the bottom of the pie will get a nice crispy crust. And then you can place your green bean casserole and your other roasted vegetables on the middle and the top rack. So that way you get everything getting the right amount of heat from the right source. So yeah, I actually did that this past Thanksgiving here. We did a lot of different recipes for our blog, and I did that exact same cooking method with the pie on the bottom using my convection bake mode, and everything cooked seamlessly. It was pretty incredible. This is extremely hot, so just trying to be very careful here. Whew. All right, perfect. And I know that sometimes breaking chicken down for some people can be uncomfortable, so look away if you are uncomfortable. This is like so hot right now. All right, there we go. Gorgeous. And the skin is really incredibly crunchy. We're gonna have a lot of taste testers here in a couple of minutes, so. All right, the question was, what temperature was the broccoli cooked in? I put that in on convection roast at 375 degrees. So that was standard. If you ever have roasted any vegetables, typically they roast at 400 or 425 degrees. So I bumped it down to 375. They could have actually gone in at 400 as well, but I also had the potatoes in there, and the potatoes also needed a little bit of time to tenderize. So I used convection roast 375 for that. This is really a nicely roasted chicken. You can't go wrong with roast chicken. It's a crowd pleaser, and it just tastes delicious, especially the crispy skin. All right, so this will go here. All right, lovely. And let's put our roast broccoli on here as well. All right. We are doing really well with time, and everything is cooking perfectly. This oven in particular, the JennAir V2, has a double convection system, and it has two fans, and they're one on top of the other. There are several different types of convection systems out there. They all I have to say I've done tests on all of them, and there's a very little variance between the different types. There's the dual convection, one on top of the other. There's dual convection side by side. There's single convection with just one fan. And then there's the vertical convection, which has the columns on either side. So we've done several tests on all these different convection systems. And, you know, they're all fantastic, but you end up like it's just splitting hairs to really figure out the difference between all of those, because they're all great. And I would say in terms of dual convection systems, I actually thought I got better results with the single convection system. But I guess it really does depend on the brand of the oven that you're using as well. And some brands of ovens are going to be better for meats and vegetables and things that require less precision. And some are better for baked goods and more delicate pastries. So again, if you are a big baker, then I would suggest either a Jenner, a Wolf, or a Miele. If you do more roast vegetables and heartier, braises and things like that, the Thermador is fantastic, our Blue Star as well, and any of our other convection systems, are pretty much even across the board. So it really depends on your particular cooking style and what it is you like to bake or roast. I can smell these cookies. They are incredible. I'm actually going to take them out because it looks like they are, well, no, let's give them the full 1.5 minutes left. But what I can take out are the potatoes, because I looked and they're getting some gorgeous color on them. Here we go. And these are our roast potatoes. Oh, wow, yeah, this is fantastic. If you want to get a nice close-up here, Brad, I should have probably used a little bit more butter or oil, but that's okay. Potatoes tend to absorb a lot, so they can actually take a lot of butter and not feel over greasy or anything. But yeah, we're getting a lot of great caramelization on the top and the bottom here. These look great. And I think they're pretty much tenderized. Let's take a look. Yeah, those look fantastic. So let's transfer those to our platter, and then our cookies should be just about done. Perfect. All right, let's use these. All right, so yeah, I think we've pretty much covered all there is to cover about convection. Yes, there are various different types of convection, so just keep that in mind as well. And feel free, if you didn't get a chance to ask any questions and you're watching this later on, then feel free to email me here at Yale, or yes, send your questions in to our Facebook page, and I am happy to answer them. All right, we are going to let the cookies cool, and then I'll show you how those turned out. Just in a moment. I'm going to finish plating here. But yeah, we got some great color on these potatoes. They look incredible. And look at that. We did all of that here live in front of you. So you saw it all cook in just a matter of minutes. Where are we at with time? 3:40. So 40 minutes. I made a whole roast chicken dinner using our convection. Mind you, yes, there was some prep involved, of course, but I bet you could do the prep in about 15-20 minutes, basic stuff. So you could get a nice roast chicken dinner in about an hour. Mind you, I did use half a chicken, but you could definitely spatchcock a chicken or cut it in half like I did, and it'll cook that fast. All right, Brad, I'm going to put this right here, if you'd like to zoom in on that. And now I will, while you do that, I'll get the cookies ready. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm flipping just one cookie on each tray to show you guys the color on the bottom. Even though these cookies were on 3 different racks, I didn't rotate the pans, I didn't touch them, they cooked on convection. I want to make sure you can see. Can you see all 3? Yeah, all right, see that? The bottoms of all of those cookies on 3 different racks, on 3 different trays, no rotating of the pans whatsoever, all cooked evenly. And even the color on the top, there's very little difference there. You got nice, beautiful brown color all the way across the board. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for us today. Thank you so much for joining our live demonstration on convection cooking. Baked goods versus roast meats and vegetables. Definitely, you have to change your mode and your temperatures accordingly, but it's really easy to do once you understand how those modes work and how convection works. So again, if you have any questions, please send them to our Facebook page or leave it in the comments section of this video, and we'll definitely respond to you. And thank you so much for watching. And remember, our home show is this weekend from the 13th to the 15th. We're offering 0% financing and $1,200 in package credits. For more information, you can go to yaleappliance.com and schedule an appointment with one of our salespeople at our Framingham, Dorchester, and Hanover locations. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you here again tomorrow. We have one more live demonstration, and we're going to be covering wok and griddle cooking on induction. So we hope to see you there, guys. Take care. Bye.